But I do know that if pornography is something in your life that you have been unable to let go of, letting go of it is likely going to change your financial fortune. How to quit porn and get rich. Today, I'm going to be talking about the connection between your addiction to pornography and wealth. And I'm authorized to do this because I, myself, have quit porn and developed wealth. And I've helped many men do the same thing. Now, before we move forward, I want to make one thing clear. This video isn't for those of you who are not struggling with a compulsive sexual behavior, but you might want to still stick around because you might be struggling with it and you just never knew. You didn't know that it was a big deal. It's also not for those of you who are unusually talented or who were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. This is for those of you who are like me, who are absolutely average, or frankly speaking, even below average individuals. We wanted nice things. We want to be able to help our loved ones and support them. If they give us a call, we want to be able to take care of them. Deep down, we might even want to make an impact on the world. We may want to help people that we see are less fortunate than us, but we can't even open our mouth to say it because we don't want to be, we're just like, who are we? I could barely even take care of myself, right? The issue for me was my behavior with pornography. And here's the crazy thing. I thought it was everything else. I thought it was, because I don't have the right skills. I don't know the right people. I'm not networking with the right people, or I'm not managing my money well. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Let me explain something to you. When you're struggling with a secret compulsive behavior, not just any old compulsive behavior, there are lots of people who are alcoholics and drug addicts who are very successful. But when you're struggling with a sexually compulsive behavior, especially if it's high-speed internet pornography. Why high-speed internet pornography and not just sex? Because high-speed internet pornography, it is anonymous, right? It is very anonymous, and the effort that it takes to access it is super low. Very low access. This makes it a very insidious behavior. You can repeat it over and over and over and over again, and it will impact you negatively quicker and with longer lasting damage than an external substance addiction will, right? But that's a video for another day, because today I'm going to talk to you about how controlling and ending your compulsive sexual behavior is going to help you become rich and generate wealth. Now, generating wealth is very different from being rich, but let's just talk about rich first of all. In order to understand this, you need to understand that there are 4 levels to actually making money. The first is implementation. Implementation is where you're using your physical body to actually make money, right? So you're a truck driver, you're doing construction, you're working in a factory line, putting together widgets, that sort of thing, right? Any sort of work that requires your physicality in some way or the other. And you can make some really good money in these places. You can make anywhere from, $35,000 a year to up to even $100,000 a year doing this. Nothing wrong with that. The next level is what I would describe, these are my terms, as management or leadership. And this is where you have the skill sets to manage people, to bring people together, to make them work in an organized manner. And you could be a manager at a factory. You could be a manager in a big company. You could be making anywhere from $80,000 to up to $250,000 a year. And $250,000 a year is good money. You can live well, but it is not rich. It is nowhere close to rich, to be honest with you. And if you're just like, oh my God, that's crazy, then you're your limiting belief is somewhere. And my suggestion to you is you should work on it, right? Work on those limiting beliefs. The next level after management and leadership is communication. Communication is your ability to get ideas out to people, right? It's your ability to tell stories, and it doesn't matter how you do it. You could do it through video, you could do it through audio, and you could be a speaker, you could be a singer, you could be an actor. And even some of these actors that are acting, and those who are singing, they're entertaining. Those who are acting are not even acting things that are real, right? It's literally acting. But you can get paid high six figures to millions of dollars. In some cases, at the highest level, hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is in the area of communication. You also see a lot of people on Instagram who are doing those things now. And then finally, and other forms of social media, finally, you have imagination. And imagination is a whole different level. Imagination is where you are creating things that have not been created before, right? So if I was to say, the company Apple, right? What is the first name that would come up? The first name that would come up would be Steve Jobs, right? Why? Because he was the person who imagined things. At the level of imagining you're making billions to soon we're going to have people who are in trillions, right? I'm not exaggerating. That's the reality. But it's your imagination. Now, what does any of this have to do with pornography? When you have a secret compulsive behavior, you have very strong emotions that you've built a habit of suppressing over and over again. And because you're suppressing this, because you're hiding this and the impact that it's having on you, the only two levels that you can operate on are implementation, where you're using your body, and at best, a mediocre level of leadership/management, which means you're making about $150,000 a year at your best. And I've done this for 12 years. I've been helping men free themselves from this behavior for about 12 years. And I've seen it consistently over and over again. There are very few men who are starting out, who are working their way up. And this is excluding those who are already established and then got an out of control behavior. If you're already making millions and you have an out of control behavior, this doesn't really apply to you. This is for those of you who are trying to get rich and trying to become wealthy. That's the level you're going to be capped at. Why? Because in order for you to get to the next level of communication, you cannot have these strong emotions holding you back. You cannot be operating from a place of shame and communicate effectively in a way that's going to change people, because you're going to be feeling, you're going to feel guilt. The way you express yourself is not going to be, the message you put out there is not going to be congruent with your unconscious mind. So because you're not working together, and it's just like, bro, you got all these secrets, you got all these things behind you, and you're trying to communicate in this way, it just doesn't work. Also, your success is never able to compound. See, when you're communicating, you have to be consistent in your message over and over and over and over again to persuade people. People have to see that you're going to be around. And human beings need to be exposed to a message multiple times. When it comes to implementation, you can just show up to work and do the physical thing. As long as your physical body is there, you're going to do it. When it comes to leadership, as long as the power has been bestowed on you and those people have to be there to do your managing people doing implementation stuff, that's fine. You just show up and you lead them because they have to use their physical bodies to make a living. But when it comes to communication, that's different. You have to communicate consistently, and you have to do so over and over again so that people can trust you, so that people can see that you're disciplined. When they see that you're disciplined in the message that you're putting out, then they respect you. Once they respect you, you can influence them, and you cannot influence people who do not respect you. So that consistency needs to be there. And when you are constantly using pornography or your sexual behavior to feel better about stress, about loneliness, about all your strong emotions, you lose that ability to be consistent. Those of you who act out with this behavior, you'll understand one thing. You know how you are on a roll, but the moment you view pornography, you lose all momentum. The day's a wrap. You get irritated easily. You're not able to look people in the eye. All of those things, those are the things that take away from your ability to communicate. I have seen it over and over again. And even if you try to push through, your message is going to feel flat. Now, how about even getting to the level of imagination where you are innovating and creating new things? Well, there's no way you're going to get there. It's impossible. I have not met anybody who has even stepped into that arena when they're struggling with an out of control behavior with pornography. You simply do not have the gray matter. Your prefrontal cortex, the ability to be able to prioritize, the ability to be constantly motivated, and make no mistake about it. In order to use your imagination to a very high level, you need to have access to dopamine. You need to have access to dopamine, which means that you're stacking win on top of win upon top of win on top of win. And then you are feeling excited about the future. You feel so excited about the future, and you are so filled and convinced about the possibility of things happening that you actually have the will to bring those things to reality. And you cannot do it without dopamine. You have to feel good about things, and that's dopamine. You have to feel good about things that don't even exist yet. And you have to believe you can do it over a long period of time, over a period of years, sometimes decades. But you can't do that once you're constantly depleting your dopamine. You can't do that when you're not stacking up the wins. Why? You're not even stacking up the wins because you're always telling yourself you're going to control this behavior, and you don't. You give into it over and over again. And here's the thing with high-speed internet pornography, it escalates. So it never slows down. It never remains the same. It always gets worse. It does. For some people, it'll get worse in a few weeks. For some people, it'll take years, but it will get worse. And that's the reason that you are unable to reach those levels where you're getting paid a certain amount. Now, I'll use myself as an example. I was stuck at a certain place. See, one of my first careers was in door-to-door sales. I've referenced this so many times. And I was fortunate that I was in door-to-door sales because door-to-door sales was about communication. And in the organization I was in, I had the opportunity to be a leader and to influence people. So to recruit people to come into door-to-door sales, that's crazy. Door-to-door sales? And bring people in there, dozens of people, and convince them that they should travel with you to another state and deal with rejection after rejection. There was no way I was able to be successful while I was struggling with my behavior. But I began to notice that when I would be off my behavior for a little bit, or streaks as people call them, I hate that word, I noticed that I was doing better. And so I asked myself, well, what would happen if I was able to control this behavior? And I experimented. And immediately I went from implementation and I jumped all the way straight to communication. My ability to communicate, the joy that I was feeling when I was talking to people, the lack of shame that I was feeling, the conviction that I had in my product was so high. I became a lot more energetic. I became a lot more charismatic. I had access to all these neurochemicals. It is a neurochemical state to be in charisma, right? And selling is simply a transfer of emotions. And if you've been suppressing your emotions, what are you going to transfer? If your emotions are shame and guilt and self-hate and not feeling worthy of love, how are you going to transfer that emotion into somebody else? How are you going to tell them that my product and my service is going to make your life better when your entire energy is not better? So the moment I could control my behavior, I began to transfer these emotions to the other person. And I was like, okay. And I didn't fully understand what was happening. I just knew that staying away from pornography, controlling that sexual behavior was really helping me when it came to my sales. And then I transferred it to my recruiting. Then I started recruiting people and attracting people to me. I became good at it. I also noticed that anytime that I slipped or relapsed, the relationship I had with the person that I was recruiting was a little bit weird. The energy was a little bit off because they were like, this is not what's up with this dude? This isn't the energy he showed up with when he first talked to me about that. I began to notice those little things. And so, as I continued to go through the different stages of my reboot, I began to notice that even in the worst times, even when I wasn't doing well, even when my bank account was overdrawn, even when things were just really, things just looked like shit, I was still optimistic. I still had access to all those neurochemicals and those hormones that would make me feel optimistic. The process of ending my behavior with pornography, the process that I have now systematized, and it's called rebooting, and it's our system, what we do, that process made me optimistic. That helped me to deal with adversity. A relapse is adversity. A slip is adversity, right? But I was able to translate these into my real life, into my business, into my ability to sell, communicate, and deliver to people. And as a result of that, my income started to grow slowly but surely. And now it's in the, I'd say it's in the mid 7 figures right now at this point. And that was consistency. Now, I'm not fully sitting in the imagination stage of things. Definitely not there. But I am making moves in those areas. Like, I can see it happening right now. That's a story for another day. That's a choice I did not make earlier on in my life, and I regret it because I'll just tell you the little story of it. I got so comfortable being in communication, and I was so scared that I would lose everything if I stepped into imagination. I did not have enough belief in myself, but I should have believed in myself, because literally I created something that everybody said I couldn't create. People like, you can't, like, dude, porn reboots? Like, what is this? And this is not the only thing I've created. The other things I've created, they don't need to be on Instagram because those businesses don't need social media to run, right? But I created that from my imagination, right? From what I wanted to do. And then people started copying, and they were like, okay, cool. Like, this is a thing that can be done, right? So now I've given myself permission to step into imagination. I'm sharing this with you because I want you to move from implementation to move past the management and leadership point and at least enter communication, right? It's not about speaking on a video like this. There are different ways to communicate. For some people, it's writing, right? For some people, it's not showing their face out there. It is just audio, right? For others, it is in their art. I don't know what it is for you, but I do know that if pornography is something in your life that you have been unable to let go of, letting go of it is likely going to change your financial fortune. All right. So that's my message for you. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Now, whenever you're ready, you can send me a DM, send me a message, use any of the links in my bio to schedule a call with one of my team members to help you control your behavior. And don't get me wrong, when I talk about finances, we'll help you with that. We have a financial reboot program inside our system as well that shows you how to manage your finances as you are learning how to deal with your behavior with pornography. Your behavior with pornography is a symptom of something else, right? We're going to address what that thing is as we help you control this behavior. Thank you for watching this episode of Porn Reboot Coaching the Portia. I'll speak to you later on in the week.